Joining me today is Malcolm Gordon, who fights Jimmy Flick at UFC 289. That fight is on January 20th. So, Malcolm, I wanted to start here. It's been 10 months since we've gotten to see you fight, 10 months since you've been in the cage. What has that time been like for you? I know some people love that time for a chance to improve. Some people hate it because they want to, prove what they've done. How's it been for you?
It's been a lot of improvements have been going into this last 10 months. To be honest, so it's been just a lot of improvements. I just haven't had the best showing that I know I've been capable of. I was super injured. I try to stay active. You know what I mean, with 3 fights a year minimum, and so obviously that takes a toll on your body. But yeah, a lot of like little things trying to get worked through. You know what I mean? We're talking like the coaching, the change in training regimens and whatnot. Everything that's going to make me like the high level, to the next level of UFC and start getting some wins and stringing this, get rid of this losing streak, but start stringing some winning streaks back together, I'm good for. So yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of those changes because obviously you've probably done a lot. I've noticed some different training partners in your corner. I've seen Bibi Fernandez is up there working out with you sometimes, and all kinds of good stuff like that. Is there one or two things that you can sort of like highlight for us that has been like one of the bigger changes or one of the more helpful changes?
I think it's just like in Canada, everybody. I try to keep my training camps local first and foremost, right? And Canadian athlete, I take a huge amount of pride in training with all of the top teams in Canada because at the end of the day, that's the flag that's going to be on my shorts, on my shirt, and whatnot, right? So I don't really see it as well. Obviously, I don't see any rivalry amongst any of the gyms throughout this entire country. So yeah, I was fortunate enough to cross train with some guys out of Vancouver, Dennis Kang's gym, at Pinnacle MMA, and yeah, did some work with Bibliana Fernandez while I was down there as well. WKX kickboxing with Coach Jay striking, which has probably some of the highest level striking in Canada. I feel like him and Bazooka Joe are well up there for top striking coaches in the country. Adrenaline Training Center with Marc-Andre, those guys, Team Tompkins, obviously. So I've been bouncing all around, which it was nice. It's a little bit of a toll with traveling, but yeah, it was time, and it was also in the point in my career where it was like you got to do these things. I needed higher level bodies to push me through all training camps to get those higher level reps in. So it's not such a shock and whatnot when you're in the cage. And then this is what I got to do. This is my job, right? Fighting at the highest level. I need high level bodies and partners in the gym. So yeah, it was an important factor to start going to some of these bigger camps. Bibliana Fernandez is absolutely incredible grappling. Everybody knows my strength in grappling. And it's just very well complemented with a champion like Bibliano to help and mentor me in some of the ways that he was doing it as well, it works, you know what I mean, really good. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Now, you mentioned that being part of your training camp. Is that something you've been doing over that 10-month period, or has that been more focused as of late? And maybe we're doing some recovery and some other stuff towards the beginning.
No, at first it was a lot of recovery, and then it was also training, like cross training back and forth and traveling for the last 10 months all over the place. You know me, I'm not really active on social media when it's not really my thing to be posting where I am and what I'm doing and blah blah blah. So I know, but either way, yeah, it was something that was added in this camp and probably moving forward. In all honesty, right? Because yeah, just to get it all done in one hub is really really hard. And I feel like as a Canadian athlete, if you're not going to go to some of those bigger camps, and they come with their obvious pros and cons too, going with the bigger camps, the Jacksons and the American top teams and stuff like that, they come with their cons as well too. You're also just another body in the room. But when you kind of spread yourself out to some of the local high level talent across the country, you end up getting some good work in because there's not as many room bodies in the room. You get the high level athlete as you're looking to work with. And yeah, as long as you keep a good rapport with them, you're respectful and you represent them and you pay your dues and you know what I mean, everybody pays for heat, then yeah, you're good, right? So yeah, it's something that's really helped, really added, and it was much needed for me, right?
Well, that's awesome to hear. Now, you mentioned a couple of times in there getting back to your winning ways. You are on a 2-fight losing streak, and sometimes that comes with some added pressure heading into the cage. Do you feel that coming ahead of January 20th? Some added pressure to sort of, show what you are capable of doing?
Every single fight is the biggest fight of your life, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss. There's always going to be, you're only as good as your last fight. And if I was on a 2-fight winning streak, it would be the same pressure to continue that, right? So that being said, though, I do feel like my contract is 100% on the line on this one. So there's a little bit of pressure in that. I'm not trying to think about that though, but but at the same time, it's like, this is a do or die fight, 100%. I feel like Jimmy Flick has kind of, he's stepped away from the sport. He came back for whichever reasons, and I think it's just time to show him the door. In all honesty, so that being said, that's where I feel about that. He's a little bit more out the door than I am. I still have a lot of fight left in me, unfortunately. And the thing is, like, 2-fight losing streak, but we have to look at also into like the opponents that I had also taken on. Muhammad Mokaev, one of the best flyweights. He's going to be title contender by the end of this year, 100%. Anybody that I've lost to is in the top 10 right now. In all honesty, they're top five even. So, and then just a little mulligan with the last one. You know what I mean? I was coming in with an injury. I truly had never thought that I'd ever fight in the O2 Arena ever. And, so obviously toughed it out, tried to stick it through. Injury was getting in the way of the weight cut, tried my best. And then whether they found out or it was just the luck of the draw, taking the 2 shots right to where the injury was. And mind you, perfect southpaw. Left uppercut to the body, countering my right hand. Like, you know what I mean? I can't even be mad about those types of shit because those things just happen in all honesty. But what matters most is how we come back from it. And that's why preparation has been at the highest point, the highest, just as the highest priority, making sure that we're 100% ready, we're 100% healthy, and we're willing to die in there on January 20th, as well as put on one of the greatest shows or one of the, we're starting off the night. So starting off the night with a bang because, you know what, truthfully too, like both of us could go in there and do a 3-round decision. It could be a boring fight. And they just say, all right, fuck both of you guys. Let's get out of here. So it's definitely one of those, it's not even just good enough to win on this one. Like I need to finish and I need it to be a statement almost, right? So that's what we're going for.
I love that. Now, I want to talk about that fight with Jimmy Flick in a second, but you mentioned Muhammad Mokaev, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about that fight because, you mentioned he's probably a title challenger in 2024, right? He's nipping at the heels of a lot of those guys. You had his back. You had damn near a choke in that fight. We're talking about you probably being the closest guy in the UFC to having beat him. What is it then like seeing him do this, seeing him go on this incredible run? Is it vindicating for you? Is it hard to see knowing how close you were to beating him? Like, how does it feel in retrospect?
Sure. In my mind, that was the fight for me to win. And also that should have been how it should have played out for me. But, like once again, I had a broken hand. So going into that, so it's like, now is the time to be smart about these things. We can't take these like short notice. We can't take anything on injuries. I hate to be that guy. You know what I mean? Like every camp, there's a guy that pulls out 4 weeks out. I don't like doing that. I like to stick through the contract all the way to the end. But I feel like a lot of these guys are playing those games, and if those are the games that you got to play, then that's what you got to play these days. Because every fight, I guess, truly really matters. And but yeah, coming that close to beating him for sure. I mean, it just shows to everybody else that I can hang with anybody in the world. In all honesty, it doesn't really matter too much. But it also showed a few things like in coaching staff and coaching wise, where we needed the holes. And you got to like I took away a lot from that fight, a lot even with the loss. That like we needed to shake things up, and I need to start really focusing in on this career and making sure we have everybody that needs to be a part of the team on the team.
I love it. And the first step on that is this UFC 289 Absolutely. Fight. And, not for anything, pay-per-view card in Canada. You mentioned carrying Canada on your back, cross-training at all these Canadian gyms. Now you're getting to perform in Canada for that fight. How wild was it, or how happy were you when you heard that this fight, was going to be in Canada and that's where they wanted to book you next?
Yeah, I was stoked. It was I remember I found out about this 12 weeks in advance. I think I found out probably the same night as your first card that was in Vancouver that night. And I talked to my manager and I was like, "Yo, Danny, like can I get on that next Canadian card?" And he's like, "Yeah, but don't expect any easy fights."
Mhm.
They're not going to be nice to the Canadians this time, right? So I mean, I was like, "Yeah, sign me up. Let's go." Um, yeah, it's huge pride, huge on my back, absolute accomplishment from where I started to where it is now. And yeah, this is huge. I mean, a lot of my teammates, Mark Hominick, my coach mentor, fought just down the street there at the Air Canada Center against Jose Aldo. Um, wasn't able to make it happen. Another one of my coaches fought same spot. Warren wasn't able to make it happen. So I'm going to be the first one out of the entire Team Tompkins roster to make it happen in Toronto at the Air Canada Center or at the Scotiabank.
I love that. I love that. Now you're fighting Jimmy Flick. You mentioned kind of had a foot out his door. You want to show him the door, but I want to talk about the matchup stylistically. He's a dude who loves to tangle on the ground, right? That seems like the only thing he really truly loves to do in the MMA world. And you're a guy who, you've gone to the ground with some of the best in the division. You mentioned, Mokaev, but he's not the only one. You've tangled with tons of good guys on the ground. Do you see it playing out on the ground in that way because you can tangle with him, or is this one where you have such a clear advantage otherwise?
It's so interesting. It's the thought process has run through my head a million times. I mean, he's in the UFC for a reason, and yeah, I mean, I'm definitely don't think anybody's game plan would be to go to the ground with me off the first bat. But if that's all that he has, that's what he's gonna do. Then we're gonna meet. We're gonna, she's gonna find out. It's not as easy as it may seem in some fights in some instances. We're talking. I'm a huge flyweight. I cut a lot of weight to make this division, and I put on a lot of muscle in the off season. So I mean, it's a huge advantage come fight day. And not only on top of that, but I have cardio for 6 months, right? Like it's grappling is in my blood, right? Like it's grappling it's what I do. So yeah, I mean, if that's the game plan for him, it's going to be a welcomed night for him. Absolutely, for sure.
All right. So I usually like to end these things with a prediction then. UFC 289. How do you see this ending January 20th?
Oh, I'm seeing it finished either first or second round TKO.
I love it. And you heard it here first, folks. This is Ben Malcolm Gordon, who fights Jimmy Flick at UFC 289. Once again, that fight, January 20th. Malcolm, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cuzzy. Take care. We'll see you at the fights.